Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs podcast. And, folks, the good news is we're all going to die someday anyway. No Luke Stuckmeyer. I had to say it. Welcome. Therapy starts now. Cubs lose 4-2 in the second of 4 against the New York Mets. Cody Delmundo, Ryan Herrera, and Corey Friedman, who's in for Luke. The Cubs are 0-1 when Luke isn't here. You want to blame someone tonight? You can blame Luke.
Yeah.
All right? I'm not going to stop you, okay? Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, as he says. So, obviously a lot to talk about with this one. Defense bad, Assad good, Adbert not good again. A lot to discuss. There is some good things to talk about as far as on the farm from today. And then Ryan went and added up all the who you gots tonight himself. Yep. So we have that at the very end of the show for some lighthearted, feel-good stuff. So
yell at Luke.
Yeah. Continue to yell at Luke in the chat. That's fine. Before we get to the game, though, I want to give a shout-out to our new diehards, Rick, Royal, Kenneth, Thomas, Zach. Credit to all of you. You can now be here for therapy and also be in for therapy in the Discord and be able to get discounts on merch and events and all the good stuff, right? Shout out to Braggs on the doing the ones and twos, as Luke calls it, as our producer tonight. Friday 120 Club coming up this Friday. Hopefully the Cubs will win a game before then. So anyway, hit that like button. Hit the like button for, I guess for Luke, but also not for Luke. But just hit the like button for us, perhaps, right? Subscribe if you're new here. Appreciate everyone who supports us, who's here all the time. I see Jake. I see Becky in the chat. I see Eli. He's always here. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are great. Okay. Now that I got that all out, guys, there's a lot to discuss. Let's just do blame game. Are we blaming the team defense? Are we blaming Adbert Alzolay? If we're going to blame defense, are we just going to pick one particular player? Are we blaming Dansby Swanson? I think you can put a lot of blame on you can put the blame on the offense. Yeah. Again, 2 runs tonight. One of them was a sac fly, and then Mervis drives in I don't want to call it meaningless because it's a run, and who knows? If PCA gets on, you got the tying run at the plate. And as we've seen last night, especially, anything can happen. But again, offense for the most part struggled again tonight. What do we put more blame on this one?
For me, I think when we were watching the game over on the couches, I looked at you guys and I try to just keep perspective that with the amount of injuries that this team has, and this isn't making excuses. I'll get to what happened tonight, but the amount of injuries this team has, and you look at the lineup they put out tonight to try to combat the lefty initially starting the game for the Mets, they're going to have some clunkers. They're missing a lot of their thump on offense. You're asking a lot of these guys to come in and play every day when they shouldn't be playing every day. They should be more
supposed to be up on the team.
Yeah, they should be more complimentary guys. These games are going to happen. What I'm annoyed about, and Brendan and I talked about it on Sunday. I know it was Steven, who's in our YouTube chat a lot, brought up just the general sloppiness on the defense throughout the year. And I think that's where my focus is tonight. That's a horrible throw from Wisdom on, Assad had the guy picked off. That leads to the first run. And, yeah, Dansby has not been good enough on defense. He's struggled at the plate as well. But it just wasn't a good game. This is one of those where, like, I don't really like to put it on one person. They just played a bad game. It was bad all around, really outside of Javier Assad. And I think that might be it. Miguel Amaya with a sack flies. Like, there's a couple good things, but, like, bad defense. Your relief pitching, again, you have someone who can't come through. And we'll talk about Alzolay. But my perspective is just, like, they're 18-12. Yeah. They're 18-11. They've played really well. And, like I see, Godfather, Michael Collada in the chat, no excuses. Like, I don't really believe in that. Like, their best players are hurt. Like, they're going to have some clunkers. Tonight was one of them. They got to clean it up. Couple games left in this series. Do what you have to do to win a series in New York. Throw this one away.
Yeah, I know I said yesterday that, Manaya's less of a guy that goes in the mound that you feel like is going to shut down a lineup. But he, and not even just him, the Mets obviously did that pretty well as a whole today. That plays into part of it. It's just that they're obviously missing guys. Guys are in that lineup that probably aren't starting every day or are honestly in the minor leagues. So it's not the lineup that they want to have out there at this point in the year, but just like in general, like they want to have all those guys healthy. So it's partly an excuse, but also like if you're getting the opportunity at some point, it's just like you gotta play better. But I completely agree with where you're coming from, and just that like these are gonna happen when you're putting out lineups that aren't your optimal lineups. There's a lot of guys that are just kind of getting opportunities now because of injuries and stuff. The error from Swanson, and as you mentioned, what you and Brennan talked about, that like generally the Cubs team that has been the last couple of years built on run prevention, right? Or at least is what's been talked about. Defense, pitching, and just feels like more uncharacteristic mistakes out there in the field for some of these guys, like Dansby, obviously the throwing error. We were talking about it on the couch, like when you have a Rizzo out there, he may be able to bail some guys out with that, but Patrick Wisdom obviously isn't that. Michael Busch isn't really that. They don't have an Anthony Rizzo defensively on the lineup right now, on the roster to bail out guys when throws like that happen. Should Wisdom have caught it? I mean, it was a close enough play. Maybe he should have, but like it's still a bad throw from Dansby on what looked like a routine play. I'm looking at his fielding stats. Going into today's game, his fielding percentage would be his worst since 2017, which was his second year in the big leagues. And then he going into the game, worth one defensive run saved, or had one defensive run saved and 3 outs above average, which just doesn't scream Gold Glove shortstop. And I think we see that even if it's not all errors. Like we're seeing that with him, where just some uncharacteristic throws, uncharacteristic misplays in the field, does not look exactly like this Dansby that we got used to seeing for most of last year.
It's telling when you have a lot of people in like the chat and stuff wondering if he's like playing through something, because it just looks a little weird. The error tonight was an easy play. It was a ball that was in front of him. He should have been able to set his feet. Not a particularly like blazing runner running down the line. Didn't really set his feet. Makes a low kind of, I think, like a two-seam throw that goes away from Wisdom. Just uncharacteristic. And he'll be the first to tell you he's got to be better. That's not going to make anybody in the chat or on Twitter feel better. But he knows he has to make these plays. He's won Gold Gloves. He has the reputation as a defender that he does for a reason. He's got to be better than that. Yeah. At the same time, errors happen. And as we pointed out, like they don't have anybody on first base that can bail out the fielders. Now, that doesn't excuse errors, but occasionally you need the first, Dansby makes great plays, diving plays. Nico makes those plays. They bail out the pitcher. Occasionally you need a first baseman to scoop a few, bail out your fielders. But I think ultimately this team is, they're not going to have an off day for a while. They have a ton of injuries. They're playing a lot of close games, and that's when a lot of this stuff really comes under the microscope. Every little play has to be made. Every relief outing has to be perfect because, as we saw, they couldn't get runners in from third with less than 2 outs, leaving runners in scoring position. No big hits, no big slug tonight. So, yeah, the first thing that goes wrong, it was sort of a, who blinks first between the Cubs and the Mets, and it was the Cubs tonight.
Yeah.
So,
for me, like, I'm going to push back a little bit on, like, the
Hit me.
first base stuff. Like, we've seen Michael Busch make good plays over
We
there.
have, yeah.
I'm not saying he's Anthony Rizzo, but he's made good plays over there.
he's made some bad ones, too,
At
though.
the same time, how much has Patrick Wisdom played first base this year? Like,
Well,
not,
so that, this
like,
is a Jet issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily even like disagreeing with you guys, but what I am saying here is that I don't think Patrick Wisdom has started at first base at all this year. And if he has, it's been like one game.
Yeah.
And it's largely just because, again, as we've discussed many times, and I'm sorry that I said again for the person who's going to point that out in the chat.
Say drink every time you say again. Yeah.
Patrick Wisdom is used in matchup-based situations. He was in the lineup tonight because there was a left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
I can't believe he didn't do anything considering Sean Manai's underlying numbers haven't been good this year. But we'll talk about the offense eventually, or we kind of have. But my point on this is if you're going to play Wisdom in the field, then you got to play him more because he's not getting enough.
Yeah.
Like, he's not in any kind
It's a
of
tough
rhythm.
spot. Yeah.
And I'm not even really advocating to play him more. All I'm saying, though, is if you're going to use him like you're using him, I think he should have been the DH tonight, and you should have had Morel at third. Now, Madrigal was fine at third, and this isn't even a slant to Madrigal as much as like I have
It could be if you
complained
want
about
it.
him, and I know some people will take it that way. But again, I said it again.
We're getting
I
a lot of
just
them
I
out
just
right
think
now.
that guys, when you're getting regular reps over there, you're at least
Sure.
probably going to be better. We saw that with Morel.
Yeah.
We've seen that with Bush.
Yeah.
Patrick Wisdom has barely played any defense at all this year. So for me, it's not that Bush didn't play, and obviously he wasn't in the lineup because there was a lefty on the mound. I'm not mad about that. All my point about this particular thing now is that Dansby Swanson has won 2 Gold Gloves the last 2 years. He is, to me, and I think to many others, the best defensive shortstop in the league, in Major League Baseball.
I still think so.
Right?
I still believe that. Like
That is
one of, if not the most.
It's just an unexcusable play. Like, I know that errors happen, this and that. That was a routine play, man. He's got to make that throw. He's got to make that throw. And the thing is that he's made it many, many, many times. To me, though, with how good he is, with how consistent that he's been over the course of his career defensively, if you're going to make an error, Dansby, it can't be on a throw like that, man. It just can't. I agree that in some aspects you need first baseman to bail you out, but it's never been like his issues. If he's ever had any issues with defense, it's never been about the throws. I feel like in year 1, we all watched him play defense, and we were like, wow, he just makes all the routine plays. We all loved Javi Baez because he was electric, and he made all the flashy plays. Dansby Swanson makes all the routine plays, and then he'll also throw in some flash whenever asked upon or whenever you see it, right? I'm asking you to make the routine plays, brother.
He's got to
and
be
that
better.
is something he hasn't done in the month of April, man. He has cost them multiple games because of defense. I know.
Well,
you can't allow the home run, Alzolay. I know you can't allow the home run after that happens. I know you can't do it. But to me, this team was built on defense. The team was built on defense. It's got to be better. If this team's making the playoffs, it's got to be better. Point blank, period.
We got a couple super chats
Yeah.
in here before we give a shout out to our sponsors. Michael Teal says, definitely pulled Assad too early. Ridiculous. Might not have changed the outcome, but still too early. He has to go out for the 6th. He was at like 77 or 78.
78
yeah,
pitches.
78 pitches when he
I
came
think
out.
we'll end up talking about it, Alzolay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can talk about it there for sure.
Talk about that. Stephen Nageshi also with a $2 super chat. Shout out to you, Stephen. Swanson equals Hayward 2.0.
No,
Harsh
that's-
words.
That's
so
harsh.
Steven was the one that on our show the other night that I was referencing talked about the defense being sloppy. So credit to Steven for that. I would push back on this, though. Always appreciate the super chat. But Jason Hayward was signed because he was coming off a particular offensive performance. He's always been a Gold Glover in the right field. But coming off that season with the Cardinals, he was also supposed to be a really good offensive performer. I have said this so many times over the last year. Way too many people have to readjust their expectations for Dansby Swanson and who he is as a hitter. Like, he has one season in his career where he's over a 115 WRC plus. He is not a big-time slugger. He should not be your four-hitter. If the offense relies on him to do that, your problem is with Jed Hoyer, not with Dansby Swanson. Now, so far this year, he has been a sub-league average hitter, but, by 8%. It'll fluctuate. He'll, just like Nico Horner, he'll get back up there. But there's a big difference there. Hayward was supposed to hit. Hayward was supposed to slug in addition to being that type of defender, and he was horrid at the plate in some of those years, like beyond horrid. Dansby will be a little above league average. That's who he's been his whole career. It's not. I don't think that's
Yeah. I think the other thing with Dansby is I don't know. We gotta get to the break. Sorry, I don't expect I expect when we get to the end of the season, it's just another really good Gold Glove caliber season for Dansby Swanson. I expect that because the defender he is. Again, like I said, this month he's made some of those uncharacteristic mistakes that you don't expect out of Dansby Swanson. Why? Because he's a Gold Glove caliber defender. I do expect over the next 5 months that he will perform like that guy that obviously is back-to-back Gold Gloves, I think, and that the Cubs signed him because of his obviously leadership and that stuff, but like his Gold Glove was a big part of that. I expect us to not be sitting here at the end of at the end of September or whatever it is and saying like, man, Dansby's offense was terrible this year. Defense was terrible this year. I don't expect that. I expect him to be in that Gold Glove conversation at the end of the year. I really do. Like, I think he is, as you said, still
he's got to make
one
that
of the best
throw.
defenders.
I'm sure you're not at the ballpark tonight. I'm sure he's already told the reporters he has to make that throw. It was a terrible throw on a routine play. It's not going to make anybody feel better, but he'll be better than that. He is better than that. He's got a pretty long track record of doing that.
And the only reason I'm mad about it is because that's how his value, that's where he gets the value, is the defense.
Gotta make that
He's
play.
got to make those plays.
Well, and you right away on the couch said, well, hope this doesn't lead to runs. So
you said it could loom large, I think.
So, there were some good news tonight, and I, kind of cashed a little bet on Circa Sportsbook.
Nice.
So, if you did bet the Cubs, I'm sorry. I kind of said in my TikTok live today that it was really good value. What do I know? But, fade me more often or not. I don't know. But you can do it on Circa. There's a few reasons why I like Circa. The tight money line splits. Games will strive to be minus 110 split on their menu, unlike other sports books which use minus 115 or minus 120. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. They don't limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players, and they encourage bettors to download and explore other sports betting apps available so they can compare the lines from each sports book. And finally, the chatbots on other sports betting apps are the worst, and they don't do that. That's why I love them. Whenever you have an issue, I had an issue with them back on the last Friday 120 Club we had, and I just sent them an email, and they fixed it before the end of the day. So, great customer service, all being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for other Circa events like Friday 120 Club this Friday with me and Braggs and Luke, by the way. Watch parties and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyouwillywinning.com.
If you're looking for your new summer beverage, we got our friends from Penrose Brewing in Geneva, Illinois. They have their Seltz Ups, which are hard seltzers with real fruit, led by their Lemon Seltz Up, a national gold medal winning hard seltzer made with real lemons. They created their unique twist on a lemon shake-up with a house-made hard seltzer and pureed lemons for a throwback to warm weather and county fairs, perfect for the summertime Chicago weather that is heating up. Certainly was today. They also have their lemon tea-up, a half-and-half inspired hard seltzer, their transfusion seltz-up, inspired by a popular golf cocktail with grape, ginger, and lime. Penrose is available at your local beverage retailer or visit Penrose Taproom in Geneva. For more information, go to penrosebrewing.com or follow them on social media at Penrose Brewing.
I think we still have more venting to do, but we can take a moment from that. And I have to say that Javier Assad provided the power for today's game. Presented by Illinois pork producers. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. The Ass Man tonight, 5 innings, 5 hits, was it one run or one earned run? Because they changed
now it's an earned run.
It's an earned run, okay.
Assad. Yeah, I think, and I was, again, this is just like what I'm taking from how they scored it. It was they awarded Lindor the steal of second. And then Wisdom's throw, he got to third on Wisdom's throw. And then because there was only one out, even though it wasn't a sack, so I think like had that error not been made, obviously you wouldn't have a sack fly on the next play, but there would have only been 2 outs, and then J.D. Martinez singled. And like I guess my thought is that they're assuming Lindor would have scored on that single, and that's why the error doesn't make it an unearned run. And that's my thinking.
He didn't deserve it.
I don't know that I agree with it.
In my view, it's unearned.
And
he picked the guy.
Metric says it's
off.
unearned as well
because 78 pitches
on Corey Friedman's box score. So so that's what. But yeah, that's my thinking is that the error wouldn't have. The guy still would have scored. Lindor, I think it would have still scored.
If we're talking about,
look, can we go back to the super chat that Michael sent? That he said that Assad should have stayed in.
Oh yeah, it's the first one.
I personally thought it was okay that they took him out. The last inning he was in, he almost gave up a homer.
Hard contact, yeah.
And I thought the hard contact was coming up. You know,
I mean there was some
Alonso.
hard contact.
I believe they were. I think Alonso led off that next inning against Alzolay.
And it's been a trend. You know, maybe the game against the Astros not so much. That was probably his best start of the year. But for most of the games that he has started, once he gets to the 5th inning, that's when it starts to get a little dicey for him.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he was able to just give you 5, and, you know, he even gave up a bunch of hits as well. Now, whether those were, you know, just placed perfectly by the Mets, because it felt like every single one of them was getting by Nico, you can be the judge yourself. But to me, I was fine that Assad came out after the 5th.
Yeah, I think
so.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna his last few batters. So you had Beatty almost hit the homer, but ends up grounding out, but very nearly hit a homer. Narvaez 93 miles an hour off the bat. Nimmo 107.7 off the bat. Lindor 98 off the bat. So not getting lit up, but given how they've handled him, Alonso coming up, seeing him for what would have been, I believe, the 3rd time, and how he's kind of gone about this season, I wasn't surprised to see the move.
Well,
now,
I think also it was, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go.
Right.
You were going to.
I was going to say that they also had 3 whiffs on 45 swings all night. So a 7% whiff rate.
Yeah.
So at that point, like he only had 1 strikeout, I think it was. So at that point, they're already not seeing him, right? Like they're seeing him well, even if they're not putting a bunch of offense together. They're not swinging and missing at what he's putting out there. Even called strikes. He had 10 called strikes, so you know they weren't. Yeah, they were seeing him pretty well, and obviously like the exit velos were getting bigger.
And I know we're going to talk about Alzolay, but Alzolay, and this it brings back my frustration with Swanson. Alzolay got Alonso to pop out, then the error happened, then McNeil flies out, and then the 2 hits happen. But so the point is that the point that I'm making here, taking Assad out and letting Alzolay face Alonso wasn't
almost work.
Again, if the fielding, if Swanson doesn't make the error, it's a 1-2-3 inning.
Yeah,
you know.
So my thing on Assad, and then we can move into Alzolay. I do just want to finish one. It's awesome. Javier Assad now has an ERA that's below 2.
Yeah.
That rules.
He's great.
He continues to give them, even if this wasn't his most like dominant outing or best outing, he gave up one possibly earned or unearned run. It's earned for now, but sometimes they change their mind again. He was really good again. He got 8 ground outs. I think JD was saying it on the broadcast. Nico getting worn out. They were rolling over that splitter to second base, and a few of the singles that went into right field, slightly different positioning from Nico, from the bench coach or whatever, bunch of ground outs. So Assad was really good tonight, even if it wasn't his best.
Yeah.
As far as the decision to take him out, it's how they've been handling him. He has sort of, the effectiveness has waned as he's gotten deeper into starts, a few times through the order, things like that. Now, at the same time, I think a lot of people might wonder at what point when your bullpen is depleted and some of the guys seem completely untrustworthy, is it worth it to just say, I'd rather go down with Javier Assad than bring somebody out of the bullpen? It's a fair question. I think we also talked about this a lot. Assad is also a guy you have to manage his workload. Like the idea that he's just going to make every start every 5th day to the end of the season, his arm isn't prepared for that. And we see how pitchers are getting hurt left and right. That's not to say that that's the reason they took him out, but they're being mindful of how much they're pushing him and when they're deciding to send him back out there to go to 80, 90, 100 pitches, whatever it might be. Now, Alzolay is a mess, frankly. And we talked about this. You make a fair point that, like, he should have been out of the inning. Obviously, Dansby with the bad throw, Wisdom doing whatever he's doing at first base. But as I said to you when we were watching, that's going to happen when you don't get any whiffs. Yeah. And this was Alzolay's problem throughout his career. Mm-hmm. He found ways to make those adjustments last year, get better results, not get eaten alive by every lefty he ever faced. But right now, he's got a 7.1 K per 9. For a guy that's supposed to be a closer, horrid. That is not going to work. And when everybody puts the ball in play, stuff happens, man. Guys make errors, bloops happen, ball hits the base, ball leaves the yard, whatever it might be. If you can't strike guys out, you open up to bad stuff happening. And the fact of the matter is, and we looked this up, Adbert's pitched in 10 games this year, I believe. When I looked it up, it was 10 games. He's given up a home run in 50% of those games. That is just not going to work. This spot, though, and I think, Cody, you might have said it while we were watching, it was the 6th inning. Like, they're not putting him in high leverage at the end to close games. Guys in the bullpen, Council's got to use him. Guys are banged up. Mark Leiter Jr. is already pitching every other day, like wearing out that splitter again. Merriweather's out, et cetera, et cetera. He's got to pitch. So whether that was the right decision, I don't know, but he's got to get some stuff fixed out. I'm not sure you can keep... I don't think you can keep him in this bullpen right now. He has an option. He's not getting guys out, Cody. I mean, this is 5 games.
It would have been a routine 1-2-3 inning if Swanson makes the play. It'd be different if he gave up a hard line, if it was a line out to Alonso, and then instead of a fielding error, it's another hard hit ball hit 100 miles per hour to the warning track that somehow gets caught, and then 2 hits, and then he gives up the homer. It'd be different if it was that. He got Pete Alonso to pop out, and he got McNeil to, they say, fly out on MLB.com. It was basically like a bloop pop-up that honestly was a great catch by Ian Happ, okay? Like, it was weak contact. Like, he would have had a 1-2-3 inning. I don't disagree that in the role that he's in right now, like, he shouldn't be going. I'm not saying he needs to go back to being the closer. All I'm saying in this moment now is that throwing error kind of ruined any kind of confidence or buildup that maybe he might have had going forward, because his last couple appearances, he was fine. Yeah, they need him to get right. It's the same thing with Kyle Hendricks. If Kyle Hendricks doesn't get right, that hurts your depth. That makes you have to use Ben Brown on Saturdays against the Red Sox, in which you lose 17-0. It makes you have to use Hayden Wisniewski on a Sunday after pitching 2 days before that. They got to get Alzolay right, and they got to get Hendricks right. And I'm pissed off at Swanson because he basically ruined it.
Yeah, I see his point. I also think
Me and Corey can fight over
We're
this.
gonna
That's
fight
fine.
tonight.
Look, thankfully, I'm in the middle. Well, I see that point, and it's true that like obviously this is the 1-2-3 inning. Right? Had that play been made, it's a 1-2-3 inning, and it should have been made.
It'd be different if it was a tough
let
play.
me talk.
It wasn't.
Let me talk. There is
Sorry.
also the point that Corey's making is he just is not missing bats. He's just not missing any bats. So the more that balls get put into play against him, as we say, like the more you put balls in play, you can make something happen. So you run the risk of an error being made or a ball finding a hole, right?
I hear
Whatever
you.
it is, that ball had not made a great play, it may have dropped in the outfield. So like.
But it wasn't a hard hit ball.
But that could happen the more you allow balls to get put in play when you're not missing bats. So I agree. Like it should have been a 1-2-3 inning. Am I looking at it and seeing like his last few outings combined with that? He's figuring it out. It was close to getting back to the closer's role. I don't know because it's still you're still seeing obviously some of the same things. He's just not missing bats. He's just not.
Mm-hmm.
Everything hasn't improved to the point where I think you can trust him in that spot. And then obviously the home run he gives up to Stewart is a meatball right down the middle. Like
Right.
it wasn't it was a non-competitive pitch. It was a 91.6 mile per hour cutter in the middle in the heart of the zone. Like he took that out. So again, I agree with that. Like he shouldn't have been in that position. It should have been a 1-2-3 inning. Play should have been made. Great. But the more that this lack of whiffs, lack of swing and miss, the more balls get put in play, and then just that you kind of open yourself up to that.
So, because I gotta respond to you.
He's up
We're
next.
doing it debate style tonight. So here's my thing. Dansby's got to make that play. It's a routine play. It was a bad throw again, and it wasn't one that he had to rush. It was not PCA running down the line, but. Like, errors are going to happen. Dansby bails pitchers out all the time. Alzolay has got to be able to come back and make a pitch. If we were talking about somebody else, this might be a different conversation. Alzolay's given up 5 home runs in less than 13 innings pitched this year. His FIP is 7.8. It just isn't good enough. Yeah. It's not good enough, and errors are going to happen. You have got to be able to get back on the mound and make a pitch that is not just throwing a meatball down the middle. So I think you tweeted it from the CHGO Cubs thing. A few things can be true all at the same time, right? And I don't think we're even really arguing.
We're not.
Alzolay should have been out of that inning. You need to get him right. He's obviously important, but he doesn't look right. His stuff doesn't look right. His command doesn't look right, and he is getting taken out of the ballpark at an unacceptable level for a guy that doesn't get any whiffs. Dansby's got to make a routine play, and overall, the defense has to be better. But I'm just not a big, like, put it on one person kind of guy.
Yeah,
That's really more what it is. I think
Well,
a few things can be true at once, but I'm just not in the... You're heated at Dansby, which is fine. Makes a lot of money, and he's going to get that criticism when you talk about wanting to win, when you talk about wanting to be the captain, when you're the guy going and saying, I am going to complain to Jed Hoyer if this roster's not better. Well, then you're going to get a lot of people that are going to say, well, make a damn routine play at short. But Alzolay's been a mess. And so that I'm not even sure what my ultimate point is. I think it's just there's a few things true at the same time, and I think we've covered all of it.
I'll get back to you. We got to do these ads because I want Braggs to put the sign down.
Yeah, his arm's getting sore.
Me and Corey will share a nice Salerno's pizza as we debate on whether the Cubs should I be mad at the players or should I just be mad at Jed Hoyer? Maybe it's just both. You should stop at Salerno. You should stop by Salerno's on Tap, located at 1201 West Grand Avenue in Chicago's West Town, and enjoy a tavern-style pizza and ice-cold beers like Blue Moon. Whether you are headed to the game, want to watch it live on our big screen TVs, or watching from home, they've got you covered. Go to salernospizza.com or call 312-666-3444. Mention CHGO and get half off your pizza. Just show up and you get half off your pizza when you mention CHGO. It's a great deal, all right? Head to salernospizza.com or call 312-666-3444 for more information. mention CHGO to get half off your pizza.
And, while you're eating that pizza, you should ponder the question of, are you in the market for a new vehicle? That's what you should debate on Tavern Style. Next time, are you in the market for a new vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you. Our partner, Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Fox Lake, is celebrating the Jeep Celebration event all month long. And you know what that means. You'll be able to rave about their savings on a wide selection of inventory. For a limited time, lease a new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo Altitude for $439 a month for 39 months. If that Grand Cherokee isn't big enough for you, check out the third row and lease a new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited L for $479 a month for 39 months. At Ray CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect thanks to Ray's price promise. Don't miss out. Shop great deals all month long and save big because Ray CDJR makes buying a new vehicle more affordable than ever. But that's not all. Just for listening, you can get a free oil change when you mention CHGO at the service center or mention CHGO when you book online at raycdjr/service. But you have to schedule before April 30th, which is today. So make sure you get that in before the end of the day. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. Serving the community since 1963.
James says he's in the market for a new middle reliever. So I don't know if they have that at Ray Chevy, but they might.
We have a few super chats. We're going to get to them. I'm now answering back to Corey before we went to break.
Hit me.
I want to just say that me and Corey aren't even really arguing here. Like, I agree with what he's saying. Like, Alzolay has to get more whiffs. He has to find a way to get out of that inning and pick up his teammate. No doubt. My point is that he didn't give up a ton of hard contact. It's not like he was giving up rockets all across the field. And again, confidence and momentum is such a thing in the game of baseball, man. He had been fine his last couple outings out, okay? And that inning, the way it happened, just ruined all of that. You want to send him to AAA? Be my guest. I don't care anymore. All right? But at the same time, this team needs him. If this team is making the playoffs, they're gonna need him because they better. And if it ain't gonna be him, someone better step up. And as you guys said on Sunday, the Cubs their depth has been tested relentlessly. Okay, so should I be mad at Alzolay? Should I be mad at Kyle Hendricks? Or should I just be mad at Jed Hoyer? I'll just be mad at everyone. Okay. Perhaps, all right? And Dansby Swanson, I'm going to be mad at you tonight, even though I gave you a ton of credit last night for, getting the first hit of the game to avoid the no-hitter and helping get that rally started to make the comeback to win last night. So everyone who's saying that the guy isn't doing anything at all this year, that's just actually not true, all right? But tonight, I am going to be mad because he has to make that play. It's different if he has to, if he's going one way, 4 or 5 steps, somehow fields it, throws it, and it doesn't go, and they, for whatever dumb reason, give him an error, whatever. That was a routine play. He's got to make it. Alzolay's got to be able to get out of those innings. It's all true. It's all super frustrating.
Well, and so, like, the one thing I would say, too, and I think, like, this conversation highlights it a little bit, where it's like, obviously we're doing an immediate reaction post-game show, but, like, not every game has to be like such a referendum on everything,
right.
And of course, I do think, it's a live post-game show. It's right after the game, and we're just expressing our feelings. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, this team is 18-12. They were in first place literally this morning. They're missing a ton of players, and the games like this happen. There's 162 baseball games. Guys make errors. Pitchers have bad outings. They lose 4-2 to the Met, another baseball team all the time. It happens. And so what I do think we need to talk about, and so I'm also reading, Frank is asking who I'm calling up to replace Alzolay. I don't really care. They have to get him right. Yeah. When I'm saying he has an option and you could send him down, it's just in an effort to get him right. Brendan is literally texting me on the side, telling me to mention your interview with Daniel Moscas and the shape of Alzolay's slider, which is not there. It's messed up. Like, similar to Tyone last year, he's dealing with stuff that's messed up, and he has to figure out how to fix it while he's going out and trying to get Pete Alonso out. It's a difficult thing to do. So I don't care what they decide to do. They just have to get him right. And it might just be a thought to use that option, get him in some low-stress things, go work on stuff. Throw your slider every pitch, because who cares what happens in the Iowa Cubs game? No offense to the Iowa Cubs. But, like, you know, what I do think is the bigger issue is that of course, the bigger issue is you don't have Seiya and you don't have Cody Bellinger. And at the moment, we've had guys step up for periods, but on the whole, other than Mike Tauchman, you don't have somebody stepping up on a consistent basis. Looking at the Cubs' numbers after the game tonight, Nico, after that really hot stretch, right, back down to a 678 OPS. Ian Happ, who was hitting third tonight as a right-hander, shame on you, Craig Counsell. That's a David Ross move, only as a left-hander. It's the only thing I'm going to say about that.
Don't let little Craig go off now.
647 OPS from Ian Happ on the season. He's been brutal. Christopher Morel down to 666. Scary number.
Ooh.
Take that however you want. Dansby Swanson, 667 OPS.
Oh,
Nick Madrigal in there tonight, 506. I'm going to have to crank out my John Lester tweet for that. I got to go check those numbers. Canario was at 815, but, like, those numbers are horrid. Other than Mike Tauchman, who's at a 955 because the summer, decade, year, era of Mike Tauchman lives on. It's like Hulkamania. Runs wild forever.
He's waiting to use a
this
wrestling
offense, and this is also what happens. And you said this, like, when you don't score runs, then we end up talking about the bullpen. We end up talking about a misplay in the field. If you stop leaving every runner in scoring position, if you get a big hit every now and again, you don't have to worry about this stuff. When you play a bunch of close games, then we're going to be talking about the defense. We're going to be talking about the bullpen. We're going to be talking about whether they took Javier Assad out too early. These numbers are dreadful. And in particular, you need Nico to get back on that hot stretch, but he carried them for a little bit. He did his turn. You know, some of them had turns. Dansby has got to pick it up at the plate, even just to get back to kind of his career norm. And listen, especially if he's going to be leading off or hitting third, Ian Happ has got to get it going because those numbers are just not going to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just the offense not obviously performing as they should be, right? Like today, they lost the game. They didn't perform very well. Yesterday, they were no hit for 7 innings and ended up winning the game, but they were no hit for 7 innings. Sunday, what was it, the 8th inning, 7th inning when Tauchman hit that home run against the Red Sox?
8th inning.
8th
right.
inning, yeah, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And then obviously Saturday they got 17-0, and so it's like it has been a recent stretch where just the offense as a whole is just not performing as they were, you know, honestly, like before, like this last week. Before this last week, the offense was humming pretty well, even with obviously Bellinger going down, even with Seiya has now missed a couple weeks. Like the offense was scoring a lot of runs. They were still doing well, but now you're in a stretch where just as a whole, it's not performing very well. And like, you know, Craig Counsell talked about it. David Ross talked about it previously before Craig Counsell. Every manager talks about it. You're not going to get your 1 through 9. Not all of them are going to be hot and firing on all cylinders at the same time. The goal is obviously to get more of those guys firing at the same time than not. Right now, they're at a point where a lot of these guys aren't, or probably the more of their lineup is not hitting very well, or they're not looking as good at the plate as some of the guys that are. Like Mike Tauchman, you mentioned him. He's been the most consistent hitter the last however many games.
Year.
Yeah, there you go. So like they're just at a point right now where the offense, again, there's so many guys that just aren't performing as well at the plate that it's hurting the offense as a whole because rallies can't happen that way. High-scoring games can't happen that way, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to say, but they just need to figure it out. And some of these guys, especially while 2 of who should be their best hitters and the lineup are out, the other guys are going to have to step up, right? Like Michael Busch has to figure out how to get to that where he was a couple weeks back when he doesn't have to be hitting homers every game, but like the plate approach really good. He's getting on base a lot, that kind of stuff. Like Mike Togman, again, doing well. Got to stay at that level because he's going to be out in the outfield for a while. Swanson, Happ, Morel's had a little bit better of a stretch here the last few games, but he's one of the more important bats in the lineup right now. He's got to be better than what he's been the last 5 games or so, whatever that is. So you have just a lot of guys that just aren't performing like the team needs them to, and they just have to figure out how to get to that level, how to be able to provide in this stretch where 2 of their best guys are out. How can they pack a little bit more of a punch and help carry this offense to a place that hasn't the place it needs to be, especially when you're talking about games like this that Starter gave you a shot and couldn't close it out.
Corey, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Cody, but Corey, I do think it's a fair point about just keeping a bigger perspective, a healthier perspective. I mean, every team, if you look across the league, American League and National League, that's in the division lead has 19 or 18 wins. The Cubs have 18 wins.
Yeah.
And with all the injuries, I highly doubt the rest of the teams that are in the division lead have as many injuries as the Cubs have sustained. But at the end of the day, we fell short of the playoffs last year. And to me, the direct reason for that was because of our bullpen issues early on in April and May. And it seems like we're going down that road again right now, and I don't quite know how Council can fix that without extra help coming in, because I can remember being in the bathroom at Wrigley for one game and everybody was like, get rid of Ross, and I was like, well, what do you want him to do? The bullpen sucks. They just need guys. And it seems like we're back at that point again, and I'm worried that we're going to miss the playoffs by 1 or 2 games, and everybody's going to blame it on Suzuki because of a bad play in the outfield at the end of the year. But when really, when you look at the devil in the details, it was at the beginning of the year where the bullpen blew a bunch of games.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't do a lot. They brought in Hector Neris. That was like sort of the move. And then
who everyone is down on right now.
Yeah, and of course, when Julian Merriweather goes down, you're kind of back to square one with the bullpen.
Well,
so I think we know that that's going to be something they're going to have to figure out. Mm-hmm. They're gutting it out, and Council's doing his best to kind of figure out where these guys can go. I think to finish on Ryan's point, like on the offense, you are without your 2 best guys. So most teams are not equipped to deal with their best hitters, literally their 2 best hitters being out and still trying to figure it out. But you're playing a lot of close games. A lot of these losses they've had recently have been winnable games. And to ask of Ian Happ to have a better than 640 OPS, that's a fair ask. And like if he were hitting a little better, Christopher Morel were back to where he needed to be, they'd be in a better spot and probably be stealing some of these close games like we saw against Houston and like we've seen them do. So you don't want to like put too much pressure on an offense that's missing their 2 best hitters. At the same time, there are guys in this lineup that absolutely it's fair to ask them to be better.
Yeah. My thing with the offense, and I don't want to be the guy who's like, blame injuries and this and that. However, we know what Ian Happ is. We know he's not a 3-hitter. We know he's not a run producer. We know that he is.
Times last year.
We know that he is good at getting on base. You mentioned that he has a 647 OPS. What did he do tonight? Tonight, though, he did walk. All right. Does he need to get on base more? Yes. Does he need to hit more? Yes. He was off to a great start of the season out in the leadoff spot. All right.
Yeah.
The reason that him, to me, at least this is my opinion, the reason that guys like him, Swanson, Morel, I guess even though I thought Morel was good again tonight, he did have a hit and he did walk on base
Morel's
twice.
Kind of one of these
but
guys.
The last 2 days, like honestly, the last week he's had better at bats, and last night the breakout started. Home run last night to win the game. Got a hit tonight, and then and he also walked on base twice. All right, so, but I think for me, the reason that guys like Happ and Swanson specifically are struggling right now is you're asking them to produce in roles that they've never produced in their careers.
Sure.
Happ was hitting so well at the beginning of the year because he was in the leadoff role. And whenever lefties were up and you put in when you face the lefty and you put Horner in the leadoff and put him down the lineup against the lefty, he actually hit well down in the 5 and 6 role.
Yeah, 100%.
He actually had some good games against the lefties. He hit a home run off a lefty in Arizona.
Yeah.
All right. So again, I don't want to blame injuries, but I can't. All I can do is just acknowledge the fact that if you're mad at them, I get it. It's frustrating. You want to blame someone. But the Cubs at this point are asking them to do something that
100%.
they've never done their entire careers. Whether you want to blame Jed on that for not getting another bat, be my guest, because I'm already mad at him about other shit. Okay, so
you are.
To me, the offense right now, it's like what me and Luke have been saying. You got to continue to grind and tread water. The one positive thing about the offense tonight, they grinded out at bats and got Sean Manaea out of the game early. All right, that was something they couldn't do against Severino. Okay, I guess what I'm more disappointed in the offense tonight is the fact that you came into tonight second best in the league against left-handed pitching as far as weighted runs created plus. They had a 137 weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitching coming into tonight, and you score 2 runs, one of those being in the 9th inning when you're down, 4-1, and it was on a Matt Mervis death taxes, ground balls to second base, first base, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it didn't help keep the rally going or anything. You felt like the game was over even whenever he hit it, right? And they did manufacture 1 run thanks to Amaya, but when you go back to that inning, they probably should have had more. There was 1 inning, we're talking about Mike Tauchman, how great he's been. There was 1 inning, there was a guy on second or third base, and he strikes out.
Yeah.
And I can't be mad at him whenever he's been the best offensive player since Bellinger left. But again, it's the little things like that if this team is going to win with their 2 best players out, you got to do the little things right.
Yeah.
I think either Luke or maybe Ryan, someone said it like, with the 2 best players on your team out, the Cubs have to do all the little things better than everyone else. They just have to. So
it was probably me. It sounds like something smart that I'd say.
And
Sure.
too often they're not. Like that's
Right.
what it comes down to. But yeah, I mean, look, it's some people will say it's excuse making, but they weren't. The Dodgers maybe could lose Freeman and Betts and still be fine on offense. Like the Cubs weren't built that way.
Yeah.
Seiya was red hot. Cody was just starting to feel like he was coming into it and find that swing, hitting some homers, and they're without him. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be tough.
The thing is
tough
though,
ask.
to go off that though is, you know that those guys, the offense was still scoring runs when Bellinger was slumping.
Yeah.
The thing is they were in spots in the lineup where they were excelling in though, because that's a role that they're good at.
Yeah.
You weren't putting Ian Happ in the 3-hole. You were putting him in the leadoff role. Seiya, you knew at some point he was going to have a 1 or 2 week slump. That doesn't mean that, wherever they are at in the lineup, if they're in there, that doesn't mean that those guys don't go on a nice hot stretch either. So again, I really do feel like the Cubs are just in a position where they're asking guys to be run producers when they just haven't historically, quote unquote, been those guys. Yeah. And I know no one cares that I'm making excuses. I'm not even really making excuses.
No,
It's just a fact.
Excuses.
To me, it's just a fact.
Yeah. Well, I also think a little bit of a different point, but still similar, is that with those guys, with Happ or Swanson or whoever you want to say, the fact that, so we're talking about Happ leading off, right? And he was doing a good job there. Not when he was leading off, when this team was healthier, he had Seiya right behind him, who was hitting really well again, like he did at the end of last season, and then you had Bellinger behind that, right? And then you had Morel, obviously, who was at his point, like hitting before, while Seiya was still here. Morel was hitting like just lighting the world on fire again. So behind Happ, you had at least 2, if not 3, like hitters you couldn't just like pitch around Happ to and get, like you had to guys had to get or pitch to Happ, and Happ would make them work, right? Just the lineup just felt longer, right? Because like you said, you weren't asking Happ or Dansby to do stuff that obviously Bellinger or Morel at the time or Seiya, whatever, they were doing, right? Yeah. And you just had more options in the lineup that guys weren't avoidable. And so I think without, obviously, those 2 bats, whether it's Nico or whether it's Happ or whoever it is, without Seiya, without Bellinger, like there's just less in the lineup that opposing pitchers can like pitch around a guy and get to. There's less of those guys that they like. We can't really pitch around this guy. We have to pitch to him. I think just, and it's not even just whoever, anyone individually, just as a whole, that hurts the lineup because, just obviously just not having better bats. Like, it's very simple to say, but not having your best bats in the lineup is going to hurt your lineup because then the other guys have to step up that are right now obviously aren't. But I think obviously just getting healthier, this Cubs team, I mean, it's going to help. Getting Seiya back in the lineup, getting Bellinger back in the lineup, it'll help because those guys will provide that top of the lineup stuff that the Cubs seem like they're missing right now.
Justin Steele coming back helps the bullpen.
Yeah, the bullpen,
getting your best players back
right?
helps, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's similar. Like when you're without your two best guys, similar to the way you were talking about how it forces you to put guys in a position in the lineup that maybe is not their best usage. Similar to what we've seen on defense. Some of these are calculated risks. Like Morel is learning third base, so early in the season. Yeah, you had a decent number of mistakes. Yeah. Well, that's because you have a guy playing third base that is not an experienced third baseman. Tonight, you're asking Patrick Wisdom to play first base. He's not really a first baseman. So when we're talking about, like, yeah, you want a first baseman that can scoop balls, scoop throws, bail out your fielders on a not-so-good throw, that's not the position that they put him in. You're putting guys in positions where sometimes it's a calculated risk because you want them to learn the position. Same with Michael Busch. He's not a long-time first baseman. Yeah. He has things he needs to iron out there, but they're putting him there for a reason. The injuries on offense are not a choice. Those things are a choice, but it leads to the same thing where it's like you have guys, you're trying to piece things together in what might be a suboptimal way. Yeah. And when you're doing that, sometimes you're going to have stupid losses like this. But I guess, again, like just to like reiterate that one point, like, pulling back, like, it does feel, and even like reading on Twitter and stuff, like I think I saw someone in our YouTube chat like talking about firing Jed. Not a knock on anybody, Cub how you want to Cub, but they're 18-12. They're without their three best players. They've been without their best pitcher since the fifth inning on opening day. Pull back a little bit. Yeah, baseball games happen, stupid losses happen. It's okay. Yeah. You don't want it to become a trend. Right. But they're gutting it out right now with the roster they have and the injuries they have. Sometimes it's okay. Things happen.
Another putting it into perspective thing real quick is just, you mentioned they're 18-12. This hasn't been updated today, but going into today, 18-11, real record for the Cubs. 16-13, Pythag record, and 14-15 base runs record. So where people were so angry last year that they were underperforming based on what those expected records said, the Cubs are overperforming, whether or not with all the stuff that's happening in
They've
April.
Stolen some.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
so they had no business winning last night.
Last night, for sure.
So that's what I'm saying is like they are
the PCA homer game. Like they've stolen some games for sure. They've gotten some council like Brewers-esque.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. All the stuff that has seemed to go wrong and the injuries and all this stuff that happened in April, and yet they're heading into May 18-12 and overperforming what the numbers say they should be.
And I feel, I know I've yelled a lot on this show, and I will once again tweet that I'm sorry for yelling after the show.
It's an annoying loss. I think it's fine.
It's an annoying loss, and it is what it is. I guess for me, the frustration is that this team is built on defense. It's supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in baseball, and it just hasn't been this first month of the year. It has to be better if this team is going to make the playoffs. It just has to be. Yeah. Because you mentioned Alzolay not getting whiffs. Well, we just talked about Javier Assad, who was great tonight in those 5 innings, but he had, 7% whiff rate? Like, he ain't getting whiffs either. Jamison Tyone, 1 strikeout last night. He was awesome. He was efficient. He went deep. He threw a lot of strikes. I'm not saying that if you don't get whiffs, you're not a good pitcher. All I'm saying is this team is built on defense. They have to play good defense. They have to help their pitchers out.
Yeah.
That's why I've pushed back a little bit on this Alzolay stuff. As much as I agree with you, Corey, like you have to defend. This team has to defend if it's going to be good. All right. So let's do these super chats and then we'll get to who you got.
Who you got?
thank you to all the super chats, by the way. Where are we at, Braggs?
Hook?
The Hook. When you have this many injuries, errors are magnified.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, that's what we just kind of talked about.
100%.
Thank you for the super chat, Steven. Another one
We
from the
had
Hook.
2 from the Hook and 2 from Steven, so I figured
Okay.
we'd keep them together.
The other one from the Hook, the 2023 Alzolay would have overcame that error.
Possible.
Maybe. I mean,
Maybe. I don't know.
we also talked about how last year he still didn't get whiffs then too.
Well, and I
so-
mean, again, like, and you can read it. I'll find the piece that Brendan's talking about your interview with Daniel Moscas, who does the pitch shaping for the Cubs. I think he came over from the Yankees, right?
I think we were in the car when I did that interview.
Yeah,
did.
and
when
like,
you were going to Iowa?
Yeah.
his breaking stuff just doesn't have the same bite. It's not moving the same way,
Yeah.
which is it's a bummer, and I don't know what gets it to come back or whatever,
Yeah.
but that's part of it.
Just
so
hit it
the
till it fixes
so
itself.
but it's to answer the super chat from the Hook, the 2023 Adbert Alzolay had that slider. This version does not.
Okay.
Can he work without it? I don't
Sure.
know. That's a question for Brendan. It's not what I'm here to do.
else we got?
Steven also, his other super chat says, think Swanson has the yips like Chuck Knobloch.
I wonder if he's playing through something, maybe just needs a day off. Like, I don't know, but no, I don't think he has the yips like that.
If he
it
had
would be
the
more
yips,
severe.
I feel like he'd be having more like fielding errors a lot. Like when I think of fielding errors that that he's made that just doesn't look like him. I remember the series against Texas. He had that one error on the fielding the ball up the middle, but. Like I feel like this isn't the first throwing error that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, Brendan tweeted out a video of all of them. It's going to be in the eye of the beholder for some of them. A couple of them are genuinely bad throws. A couple of them you're going to, depending on which angle you are coming to the video with, you could look and say, listen, a real first baseman catches these. It doesn't make them a good throw, but should they be errors?
Sure.
I don't know. Up to you.
And then Steven's
more
other
for
super
Steven.
chat, he says,
$2,
center
thank
fielder
you.
of the future, PCA, Kevin Alcantara, neither.
PCA.
Brother,
Probably.
all I know is Cody Bellinger needs to get back and he can play there, and then we'll see.
Trick question, it's Brennan Davis.
Ooh.
Yeah,
No.
I mean,
Trick
I think
question. It's Brandon Miller.
He was in you guys' chat the other night, kind of having this conversation with other people in the chat. I've been impressed by PCA in his 5 games just because he was so bad in Iowa to start the year. Like numbers wise, he wasn't getting the results. But he's legitimately helped them win multiple games since he's been here. I think when Bellinger does come back, I do think it's likely that he goes back to Iowa because then he'll get consistent at bats because as we saw tonight, their counsel and company is not letting him face lefties.
Yeah.
And honestly, they let him face 1 or 2 lefties against Boston, and he didn't look good against them. So I think they want him to get consistent every day at bats, and I think they want him to play, be in that routine and that rhythm and everything. So I think he's likely to go back to Iowa. That doesn't mean that he didn't try, that he's not part of the future. I just think that with where the roster is right now, that's something that they likely want to do. But I could be completely wrong.
I would have to ask some of those guys that are paying closer attention to the minor league stuff. I'm not sure which. I would have a hard time believing anybody projects as a better defender than PCA. I know Alcantara is a freak of an athlete.
Yeah.
But I would
He might
just
be a better hitter than
assume-
PCA. He might have a higher ceiling.
I guess the way I'm looking at that question is hoping that both of them hit well enough to be in the majors. PCA is the one that patrols center,
Right.
but I'm not up enough on how good Alcantara rates or projects as a center fielder.
Alcantara really started the season off in Double-A really bad, and he's gotten hot of late. His numbers are really good in Double-A. So, I think it's a good sign that you're seeing him perform down there more consistently this year. But he also.
He's young.
I don't think we
Young
see
guy.
I don't think we see him until next year, sometime in the middle of the year.
22, 23 maybe? Alcantara?
He's young.
He's
yeah.
young. Yeah, he's
young.
on the younger side for sure.
So either way, I guess in a way, Steven, you're ending the show on a positive note, talking about the farm system. The other good news about the farm system today, Cade Horton promoted from Double-A to Triple-A. I mean,
According to Tommy Birch, yeah.
Yeah, according to Tommy Birch. Thank you, Ryan. I mean, I know it's kind of a joke, a bit, whatever. We all kind of try to manifest June for Horton. I think it might be on path. It might be on path. We'll see how many starts they want him to make in Iowa, but I think it's exciting because I think we all agree that he's probably the most hyped up prospect since Mark Pryor. I know we were all really excited about Killian, but I think we just wanted something to be excited about 2 years ago. But Horton, first round pick, considered the best pitcher in the draft whenever the Cubs took him. He's just powered his way through the majors, or not the majors, the minors to this point. He's looked good in the minors. He's at like a 1.2 feet, 1.25 earned run average in AA. I can't talk. I'm sorry.
What did you say earlier?
Ass backward?
No,
or
back
back, yeah, back assward.
Back asser.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, like it's exciting. We might honestly, with the way things are going, we could see him in June. I feel like it's a real possibility.
Well, performance in AAA is obviously going to matter too, but
sure,
it just depends on how many starts they're going to want to see out of him. Obviously, limiting his innings and stuff is going to matter for Horton as well. So it's possible, but there's other factors that are going to have to play into that as well.
I'm looking at our good friend Greg Huss at Out of the Vines on Twitter. I'm looking at his Twitter, and he quote tweeted an appearance of his on this very show.
6 starts is what he said?
Where he said, give him 6 starts in the minors. This was from November.
Yeah. I remember him coming on the show. Yeah.
Give him 6 starts in the minors and call him up. And Greg followed that up with a tweet tonight that says, 2 starts in Iowa, and I nailed this. So we'll see what happens. Brendan and I were asked on Sunday why he was going so short in some of these starts. And I can only assume they're saving the bullets, man. Like the dude, he went to AA, he performed there. He's in AAA because he's knocking on the door. He's ready. And you see a lot of these teams bringing guys up earlier and earlier because with how pitchers are getting injured and just the nature of the game, you want to save those bullets. The team needs pitching. Why, if he can get major league hitters out, then why waste those bullets in AAA? You don't have a rotation that is full of bona fide, John Lesters. They're going 190 innings, 32 starts. That's not what you got. You have injuries. You have guys that you have needed to put on the IL. You have all ineffectiveness, short starts, etc. If he's healthy and looks good in these couple AAA starts, at some point you're just wasting time. I know you don't want to start the clock, all this other stuff, but the team is competitive. Like, you need help.
You may need
him,
and
he's
one of those
he's
extremes.
That guy. So
he's one of those extremes that Brennan likes to talk about on you guys' show that I actually can understand it. I understand it more than I understand his graphs. So, all right. T-Hood9 in the chat. He says, remember when Cody was wanting the Cubs to trade Triantos the day he turned 21?
Oh, that's Corey's guy.
Because I don't see a path to him making the big league roster.
Credit to you for being able to read that.
I don't know how I was able to read that, but I did. I know that I said that, and I still actually believe it because I think Nico Horner is your second baseman, and I believe they're playing Triantos at second base in the minors, and I'm higher on Matt Shaw. So, that doesn't mean I don't like Triantos. All I'm saying is that if you want an impact player at the trade deadline, you can get one with James Triantos being in the top 100 of prospects.
You're going to have to part with some guys.
Yeah, you have to part with someone. Now, if they keep Triantos and trade someone else, again, I'm here for it. I just don't see how Triantos is part of the future with this organization with Nico Horner at second base and Matt Shaw likely to debut this year too. So I'm just letting you know, T-Hood, that doesn't mean that I wasn't high on Triantos. He's in the top 100 of prospects, and the Cubs have the second best system in baseball. Of course I'm high on him. So, anyway.
Who you got?
Big controversy tonight.
Luke picked Barb?
Yeah, according to the facts, as in FAX.
Okay.
Shout out Braggs for doing that. Ryan went Morel. I went Madrigal because power manifestation. Brennan went Dansby because Dansby had been playing better when he started using Dansby. Now I'm going to have to ask him to stop taking Dansby after tonight. And then Corey went Wisdom. And now I'm convinced that's why Wisdom didn't hit a homer tonight like I thought he would.
I apologize. I to be honest with you, the way you take the struggling players, I should just stop playing. I'm like ruining these guys' careers. I'm sorry. I am like cursed at who you got.
Yeah.
Not my game.
According to the stats.
Yeah.
I think I won with 1 for 3, Morel, a walk,
you got a
and a
walk.
stolen base.
See, I was going to take Morel again today too, but you caught him before I could,
did.
so I just took the next best thing. Man.
Cody, I'm going to be honest with you. You've done a lot of good work over the last couple years, saving players,
Saving the season.
pulling things out of players that isn't
big of
there.
you.
Credit to me.
Credit to you.
I don't think you're powerful enough to make Nick Madrigal a good hitter.
I think I won.
But
Hey, I almost sung him
You were-
into
I
existence.
felt it.
You did.
I felt
Braggs
it.
almost sung him into
I
existence.
forget the song I was singing. I sang, oh, it's Madrigal. And then he lined out.
As you were saying
But
Madrigal,
but
he
he almost
hit that
knocked
ground
in a
ball.
run
I
to
didn't-
that song.
I
And
didn't even
had
hear
he,
you do that.
that would have been the. That
It was like
Ears-
as you were saying Madrigal, he hit the ground ball right to Alonso.
he smoked it too.
My
He
ears would have
smoked
started
it.
bleeding.
Yeah.
bleeding
We
if
did
I
have
heard you say
some
that.
news out of Milwaukee. The benches cleared in Milwaukee,
They've gotten
Against
in
the
a lot
Rays.
of fights this
and
year.
according to our
Dude,
guy
Reese
Gary,
Hoskins is giving them some like I don't know.
Yeah.
Some
yeah, and according to Gary, I guess some big haymakers were thrown,
Ooh.
and Uribe landed one, so he might be getting in trouble
Might get in
here.
trouble, huh? Interesting.
And then also this one I found interesting as well.
Yeah, I saw the bees.
The bees. Your guns are useless against them. Per Arizona Diamondbacks, tonight's game has been delayed due to a bee colony forming on the protective netting behind home plate.
Wow.
That is a Chris Farley Tommy Boy
Interesting.
situation they're
Yeah.
having down in Arizona.
through it.
And then
Come on.
also
Yeah,
this
play through
this
it.
one I found interesting too. Kyle San asking, "How do I put CHGO on my will?"
You can just put me on there.
Leave it all.
This is
to Ryan.
interesting.
Yeah, you can put me on there, and I'll figure out what to do with it.
On his will.
Oh, like is he talking about like his will for like when he passes?
Right.
I
like
believe
we
so.
want to be on Duke's will for sure.
Okay.
The
But
Duke's
like what is Kyle giving us in the will?
Yeah.
I'm certainly curious to find
I'll,
out.
Yeah.
just go ahead and put my name, and I'll dole it out however I see fit.
Interesting.
So Morel wins, right? Morel wins.
Yeah,
so you got
Morel
it.
wins.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Also, Ryan went through and counted up all the who you gots. That Luke said that he went and counted up all the who you gots. I just want actually, Ryan, go ahead and say the records, and then I'm going to say what I want to
Should we
say.
include today's?
Yeah, go ahead and add in
Okay.
today's.
So Corey is 2-25. Luke is 7-20. I would be 9-21.
Thought you only won like
Brendan
2 games.
is 7-19, and Cody 5-21. It's something like that. Hold on, I'm gonna say I did it in front of Corey. I literally asked Corey and Cody basically every single game that didn't have a complete clear winner. Who was it? I just wrote down who won. Had no idea who picked who those games. You can literally see me Xing out the first winners we put because no one had actually picked them. I look back at Luke's. Like Luke just didn't count like 4 of his picks when that were losses, so he just didn't count them. So he,
Okay.
I can't even trust what he wrote on
thought
it.
he was
And
doing,
also, I'm not even winning percentage wise.
Okay.
Brendan is winning percentage wise. So like,
Okay,
these are the
All right,
facts here.
you have
No, Brendan doesn't even get his picks in on time.
okay.
Well, when it says Miko, this counts.
I'm just gonna say it. I wish Luke were here to witness this in person. I'm just gonna reveal it. Me and Corey were on the couch with Luke the night that he counted these up, and in the 5th inning, he accidentally deleted everything off his MacBook, and then he just decided to make numbers up, and then said, "Oh, Ryan's record is so bad, he'll go back and count them
And
all
I-
up himself."
and I
he
did it.
did.
And I did
And
it.
so all I have to say is credit to Luke,
Yeah,
because
okay.
he got Ryan to actually go and do it.
I did it. I did. It was so blasphemous. The fact that he.
I just want Luke to know that I didn't rat him out. Cody did.
Oh,
So-
no, it was so, no, this was like the plan. This was basically the plan. Like once Ryan actually counted them all up himself, he literally took 7 innings to do it, basically.
Yeah, but now do we trust Ryan though?
Yes.
He went and
was
did it
sitting
and asked
there.
us. We were there.
That is why Luke is a savvy vet.
Corey-
he knew who would
Corey
get
was angry
defensive.
that he only has 2
I thought
wins.
Ryan was like doing some serious game research during the game. He had this pen and pad. He was like hard at work for 9 innings, and this was all for who you got. And we also
And it was all a ploy to just get Ryan
and
to
it worked.
count up everything.
That's why Luke is a pro.
Yeah.
A pro's
And I did
pro.
it. And you know what? Now we can't say that I'm not either first or second place. And who you
Wait,
got?
and now you have it all added up yourself. That
Oh, yeah.
means that you get to keep track of it. The
And
rest of the
Luke
season.
wanted paper documentation. Here's your damn paper documentation.
And Brendan
God,
in the
I
chat.
can't wait for him to. I can't wait to talk to him in a few days. About
Brendan
this.
in the chat, finishing the night on a good note. The Chicago
All right.
Cubs enter May in first place.
Hey,
I think he was talking about.
I think he
himself.
was referring to himself.
Oh, I
first
thought
guy.
said
you got?
Milwaukee. If Milwaukee loses, though, what's the score?
They lost or they won. They won like 8
Yeah.
to 2.
God
Yeah,
damn
yeah,
it!
Brandon.
So we're back in
Brendan.
second.
He's talking
All
about. He's talking
right.
about who you got.
Now
first place.
deduct 2 losses from Brendan on
Well-
who you got because he got me excited.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are like way over, but like this was just too good to not let go. So.
Yeah, we had to talk about.
Appreciate y'all for being in the YouTube chat. Anything else, you guys?
No, look, I mean, I like a good debate. I think it's fun. It's a long season. Like,
Yeah.
if we came on here after every game and we're just like, whatever, they lost, it
Right.
happens. Like, that's not much of a show. Like, what are you
Right.
guys
No,
paying
there's
attention
There's
to?
definitely
So
annoying losses for sure.
It's,
so.
but at the end of the day, like, even, okay, so they're in second place, but like, they're 18 and 12. They have gotten through a tough stretch here with no off days. They played some good teams, even if they played them at maybe not their best. They've won some series against some good teams, and they're right in the thick of it at the end of a month. They should be getting Steele back. He's pitching. I know they're showing the game on Marquee tomorrow afternoon. His rehab start. He should be back soon. Cody's doing baseball stuff. Seiya's doing baseball stuff. So just get through this. Try to steal some of these close games. Limit the sloppiness, the bad plays, stuff like that. They're in a good spot.
Yeah.
They're just day by day.
Yeah.
Just try to keep it going.
I think it's okay to like pick apart losses like this that are kind of just annoying. Like I think that's fine, while also understanding the bigger
Keeping
picture of like
perspective.
they're in a good
Yeah.
they're in a good spot.
Before we end the show, the good news to end the show with: Shota Imanaga goes tomorrow.
Yep.
Show
Tomorrow,
today.
the Shota show. All right. So, Imanaga versus some guy that it spells out as Butto, but I think that's not how you pronounce it.
Jose Buto maybe. something like
Buto.
that?
Well, it looks
Something
like it spells
Yeah,
spelled
yeah, yeah.
B-U-T-T, and then an O with a whatever those.
Would have
things
been
are
better
called.
if he had gone tonight against the Ass Man, but
Oh, that would have been awesome, bro.
Such is
Anyway,
life.
so like, I hope if you stuck around for the last hour and 15 minutes, and you know that Imanaga is going tomorrow. Hopefully, that gives you some better feelings going in tomorrow. So we'll be back here tomorrow for post game 6:10. Barb, after the game, we'll be
Live.
right here live. Please hit the like button on your way out. Please subscribe if you came in and you weren't completely annoyed by me and you want to listen to me yell some more down the road. Yeah, thanks for checking out CHGO Cubs podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.